Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in today's podcast, we're going to be reviewing the two big games which took place over the weekend. Man City running away big winners, and also Arsenal coming off a big win as well. And pretty much both teams going neck and neck at the top of the table. Now, joining me this evening to review these matches and also to talk some EPL football, we have returning to the podcast, Christophe.
Good to be back with us.
Yes, indeed, Christophe. Some interesting results over the weekend, and Man City and Arsenal continuing their winning streak. But let's first take a look at that Arsenal victory, Christophe. I mean, it's a victory you anticipated. What did you see from this Arsenal team?
Um, to me, it's kind of a bit of business as usual for them, is what I would have gathered from that. I didn't see anything, much of note in this game. I just think the opposition just wasn't ready for it. Um, I, was there a controversial call in this one?
Well, usually most games do have a call or two, but what I can recall is that Bournemouth did provide an early threat. I recall Solanke getting, I would say, what is a decent look when he brushed off Gabriel and was almost one-on-one with the keeper, but, a tight angle. And that was one of the better chances which Bournemouth got. But from there, it was pretty much Arsenal through and through, playing at home in front of their fans, from that first goal went in, breaking the resistance from Bournemouth, then it was pretty much downhill from that point. And as you say, it was a routine win, another 3 points in the bag, and definitely Arsenal maintaining the pressure, keeping pace with Man City. Of course, Man City has a game in hand. So, and that game in hand, I believe, is versus Spurs. So possibly the North London neighbor Spurs, big rivalry there in North London. Spurs will be hoping, or Arsenal, I should say, will be hoping that Spurs can do them a favor and get something off Man City. But I mean, with how Spurs looked versus Liverpool, Christophe, I would not count on it much.
It seems like Spurs has kind of, I don't know if they've tossed out the defensive structure or they're not certain of what their defensive structure is, but that space between the defense and the midfield is just too wide at the moment, and they probably need to get a holding midfielder to sit in between there, because that is where Spurs has been relinquishing a lot of the space, and we saw it against Chelsea and we saw it against Liverpool. So until they fix that, they'll be getting probably another five from Man City.
Definitely. That's definitely one of the weaknesses in the Spurs team. Started off well. I must say they had a tremendous run in the first 10 games of the season, but then they were beaten by the injury bug, and it really exposed the lack of depth within that squad. But I do believe, Chris, that Ange comes to the Spurs team with an excellent footballing philosophy, and he just need to be supported in the transfer window to bring in some quality players and pretty much extend the depth within the Spurs squad, because I do think they have the remnants of a quality team. It's just a case where depth was lacking, and of course players are getting used to this new way of playing also, and in fact the players may not suit this style full on, and had to work with what is at his disposal. So I do believe we will continue to see a similar Spurs for these final two games, but definitely come next season when a dip may be made in the transfer market and a few players who may not necessarily fit the coaching philosophy may apply their trade elsewhere. So Spurs definitely one of the teams I'm looking for come next season. But for this season, I believe that European spot have slipped through their fingers. I do believe Aston Villa is the team that will grab that spot, even though Aston Villa themselves lost or drop points, I should say, over the weekend. Spurs pretty much failed to capitalize on that. Mathematically, they probably still have a chance, but I'm not giving them much hope in terms of the Champions League spot. They may yet finish in one of those lesser European positions, but in terms of top four, I think that ship have sailed for Spurs, and it may come a little too early for Ange. It would have been a good achievement, but I do fear it would have been very unfair, unfortunate for Aston Villa, who have pretty much occupied the top four majority of this season. I mean, Aston Villa did drop points on the weekend, Christophe. How did you view that? Is it a case where the players are now tired having been playing in Europe, losing to Olympiacos, a surprise or a shock loss, I would say, at home, and then having to play again on Sunday? Are we now seeing the bare bones of this Aston Villa team and fatigue creeping in going towards the end of the season?
It could be a case where it was so a combination of fatigue and players just not up for it, the lack of squad depth. But I think personally that it looks to me like just a blip, to be honest. I think next week you would expect to see them bouncing back and back to winning ways. Um, as for Spurs, I've said it at the beginning of the season that new managers tend to do well at Spurs. But Spurs does tend to run out of steam down at the end of the season. The problem for the new managers is their second season. How does that go for them? First season, fine, except for the end of the season, but the second season will be weird and, makes his money and, uh, we'll see how good he is. I mean, he does definitely need to be backed by the Spurs board, by management, but he also needs to get rid of a number of players who are probably dead weight or very much underperforming. Key among them is probably Richarlison. I would cash in and get yourself a proper striker who is less ego and more substance, to be honest.
Shrewd point there, Christoph. Shrewd point. Very, telling thoughts there, and I can't disagree with you at all. I mean, Kane have left the club, and really, Kane has really not been replaced effectively, in my opinion. As you say, they need a quality striker up front, someone who can get you plus 15 goals, I would say, in the season as your out and out number nine. We've seen where Richarlison have occupied that position. Son have occupied that position as well, but I do believe Son is better suited, or he has his better play performances playing off that left flank or sometimes on the right, but a number nine may not necessarily suit him the best. So, that's where, as I said, the transfer window comes into play. This summer should be a very active one for Spurs, but in looking at Ange and what I've seen from him this season, I do believe he tick all the boxes in terms of a quality manager. And one of his outstanding features, I would say, is that he sticks to his philosophy regardless of the results. I can definitely compliment him on that, and I can see the team playing to his style, playing to his principles. You can definitely see the Spurs plan, and it's just a matter of getting the right players in order to effectively carry out this plan. And I'm sure you'll see an improvement in results going forward. But as you mentioned, it's a routine win for Arsenal. Another 3 points in the bag, really pushing hard at Man City. But can this Man City team be stopped, Christoph? That is the question. 5-1 versus Wolves. Talk to us about that result. And of course, Haaland, the man at the moment. How much did he bag for?
Four, I believe. Did he get like two penalties, I think?
Indeed, among them.
Okay. So Haaland did
But
get
of
two
course, pressure
penalties.
penalties, Christoph. I mean, at this time of the season, pressure penalty. We would have been having a different conversation had he missed. So at the end of the day, you have to step up to the plate and tuck these penalties away. Pressure penalty.
Oh no, I only brought up, he scored two penalties because we've been saying that Ollie Watkins has been so excellent without scoring any penalties.
Indeed,
So
indeed. My player
I
of the
mean,
season, my striker of the season, in all honesty, to be honest with you, Ole Watkins gets my vote. As you say, his non-penalty goals plus assist. Oftentimes we overlook this, but I think he is the top assist man in the EPL as well. So not only is he banging in the goals, he's also setting up his teammates. So when you look at his overall goal contributions in terms of a combination of goals and assists, I believe he leads the way.
So
And for me, he is my player of the season.
you think Ollie Watkins should win EPL Player of the Season?
He gets my vote. He definitely gets my vote, especially if Aston Villa can surpass all expectations and grab that fourth Champions League qualifying spot. Ali Watkins definitely my player of the season. And of
So
course, the Ballon d'Or is coming up as well. There's really no outstanding candidate. Number of players are vying for the Ballon d'Or. So his name may be mentioned in that conversation as well,
well,
especially if he can go to the Euros, make an impact, and England goes deep in that competition. And if Aston Villa can bounce back in the Europa Conference League as well and possibly make it to the final, if not win that trophy, then who to say Ole Watkins could not be the Ballon d'Or winner?
yeah, but that's the thing. He would for Ollie Watkins, because we know Ballon d'Or is favoritism. It's people voting for Ollie Watkins to win the Ballon d'Or at this point. He would need to go to the Euros and have a scintillating tournament and possibly win the tournament.
Definitely. I mean, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that
It's
England
not
could
beyond the realm.
possibly win.
Oh no,
England enter this
definitely.
tournament one of the favorites, I would think. I mean, Kane should get the starting slot. However, coming off the bench, he could possibly make a huge impact. I mean,
No. He's not going
oftentimes
he's not going to win Ballon d'Or coming off the bench.
well, you can never tell what life
No.
has. Injury,
It,
you
it,
don't know where injuries are, tactical changes, possibilities. Oftentimes, you need luck as well in order to get some level of success. And they say when one door closes, another door opens. So, for me, he would definitely have my vote for player of the season. Ballon d'Or may be a stretch, but when you look at his numbers, Christophe, and as I said, if he can back up those numbers with some trophy, with some silverware. Top four EPL, Champions League qualification, possibly win the Europa Conference League, and then make a splash at the Euros. It is not beyond the realm of possibility that his name should be among those candidates. Because to me, there's really no outstanding candidate as of now. One would possibly look towards Real Madrid in maybe the likes of Vinicius Jr. If in fact Real Madrid can lift the Champions League title and he having a say in terms of where that trophy goes, possibly. But again, a number of candidates with no one really standing out where you can just pick that player from. Right now to me it's a toss up.
I think perhaps if Real Madrid go on to win the Champions League, I think the Ballon d'Or would probably fall to Jude Bellingham and not Vinicius Jr., to be honest.
Possibly, and again, it may come down to the impact he has in the Euros, or that would push him over the top. That would be like the big separator. If Bellingham can go on to have a magnificent Euros, possibly a semi-final or a final berth for England, with him playing a significant role, then again, it is not beyond the realm of possibility that he could lift the Ballon d'Or. He's made that splash in Spanish football. So it's just a matter of cementing that claim to that Ballon d'Or by performing well at the Euros. And of course, already won the Spanish La Liga. If in fact Real Madrid could win the Champions League, and then as I said, the separator would be his performance at the Euros, then he would definitely get my vote, in all honesty. But City, Christophe, Arsenal need City to drop points in order for them to lift the EPL title. Will any team take points off City?
At the moment, that's not looking likely. I don't think. I mean, the best opportunity at this moment would be Tottenham, but Tottenham having lost three back to back and not looking good defensively because these have all been heavy defeats, heavy goals against, so to speak. Um, I don't see them beating City unless there is some big, massive change that and makes for that City game. And even just a draw would potentially be enough where Arsenal could possibly win on goal difference, but also goal difference might not be enough anymore, given that City
I mean, Man City
has
definitely plug in that goal difference deficit, 5 versus Wolves, 5-1 there. So that's a +4.
right. So
How does it look now? What's the advantage that Arsenal has where goal difference
Arsenal
is
has
concerned?
a 6 goal advantage at the
Oh, a
moment.
6 goal advantage. And as you say, Spurs is leaking heavily, and Liverpool got 4 past them. So what's off City? City could possibly get another 4 past them as well. Confidence should be low in the camp at this moment. And of course, we know Spurs like to play out from the back. So if Man City is able to press them high, it may lead to a few errors. In addition, injuries. Royal in that Liverpool game, Christophe, look really suspect, and Liverpool punished him immensely in that game, banging 4 in past, as you say, a very leaky defense. Of course, Liverpool themselves have been leaky all season, and again, they succumbed to that stereotype by letting in two dubious goals when they had the game totally under control. Son and Richarlison got on the score sheet, and that one ending 4-2. Of course, it was Klopp's penultimate game at Anfield as well, and a bit of confidence is back into this Liverpool team. Salah getting on the score sheet, and it seems as if all is forgiven as it was last week. What was your take on that game, Christopher? And how would you rate the Liverpool season? I mean, the season is all but over. Liverpool can finish possibly no worse than third. How would you rate the Liverpool season?
Um, I think from the Liverpool standpoint, the season has to be rated as a failure because after having been so high, top of the table, vying for the EPL, vying for the Europa League, it comes to a very disappointing conclusion, and a very disappointing conclusion for Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool tenure. Um, I think they will have to do much, much better next season and would have to do at least a sustained title challenge right to the end to make up for the season. But I think that I mean we know that expectations are going to change throughout the season, but at some point on this business end of the season, we know the expectation was to win the EPL. So to kind of go out in such a fashion is know is going to be very disappointing for the board, very disappointing for the club, very for the players, and definitely for Jurgen Klopp. I kind of feel like we know Liverpool defense has been a little bit weak, but we would have to say that the players have let down Klopp because they have. It's not a case where they're not creating chances. All the games that they lost or drew, they created tons of chances and just didn't finish them.
Definitely an interesting observation there, and I fully agree with you in that analysis. The philosophy, that is what I look at, Christoph. The philosophy of the coach remains intact. You have a distinct Liverpool style, and as you said, this style have yielded success in the past and even this season. Although disappointing, Klopp still ends his tenure with a trophy in the bag. When all is said and done, it's another trophy in the Liverpool cabinet. Disappointing, as you said, in terms of how the title race has petered out. And of course, much was expected in the Europa League as well, having not qualified for the Champions League last season. So I believe objectives at the start of the season may have been met in that one would have been challenge for a title, two would have been Champions League qualification, and three would have been win a trophy. So while disappointing results, yes, you could say a few boxes have been ticked as well. But as a club of Liverpool's stature, the bar is very high, and nothing other than those big trophies would be seen as a disappointment. But when you sit back, take a look, you still have to give credit to Klopp. A magnificent tenure as Liverpool coach, really giving off his all. And I must send a big thank you to Klopp bringing home an EPL title after a long wait. And, of course, Champions League finals and Champions League trophy in the bag, FA Cup in the bag, Carling Cup in the bag, Club World Cup as well. So when you really take a look at the overall impact of Jurgen Klopp, he goes down as a Liverpool legend in all honesty, Christoph, and his name will live on in Liverpool folklore for many years to come. What says you?
Definitely, he will go down as one of the greatest Liverpool managers. Not necessarily the greatest. There was Kenny Dalglish, maybe Rafa, having won the Champions League. But definitely Klopp is in that top three of greatest Liverpool managers at the moment, and probably for the foreseeable future, because Liverpool will have to rebuild next season, new manager. We don't know how his tenure will be as yet. Time will tell.
Definitely time will tell. And the next interesting result, I would say, is over on the blue slide of London, Christoph. Has Chelsea finally turned a corner?
Um,
That is indeed the question.
uh,
They've gotten a few good results of late, and I believe they now sit above Manchester United. Manchester United having been battered today by Crystal Palace, 4 goals to nil. Does this also mark the end of the Ten Hag era, or will the Manchester United fans continue to trust the process? But first, Christoph, tell us about Chelsea.
as for Chelsea, I don't know if they've turned a corner or anything like that. I tell you what has changed in the last two games is that Cole Palmer has been fit and has been playing. So at the moment I can't tell if it's a one-man team or if they have, fixed whatever their deficiency has been. I'm
Oh,
leaning towards one-man team at the moment.
and Enzo has been unfit and haven't been playing. The Chelsea fans will also tell you that, Christoph. So it could be a combination of both things. Cole Palmer in, Enzo out, and it seems as if the balance within that Chelsea team is much better with Enzo not playing. But he is a 100 million pound man. How can your 100 million pound player not play if and when he is actually fit? Injury has him out now, but when he returns to fitness, he must be one of the first names on your
Well,
team
I
sheet.
I can't say that because, as I have said, we're at the point in football where price tag, for the most part, does not matter. A team will pay 100 million or 150 million if they really want that player. It doesn't matter if the player is worth it or not. They're going to pay it. Cole Palmer cost them what, 40 million, and we have to say that Cole Palmer has been one of the best signings of the Premier League season,
The best signing of the Premier League season, not
along
just
with
one of the best, the
one of
best.
I'm not quite sure
Yes,
as
man,
yet if
he
he's
is
the
right
best.
there at number one. There is no other signing in the EPL who have been more impactful than a Cole Palmer. Right now he should be one of the first names on that England Euro squad list. And of course, he should be getting Young Player of the Year in the EPL as well. And he just recently, before Haaland's 4 goal splurge versus Wolves, he was one of the top goal scorers in the league as well. I believe he's now in the top three. Haaland,
Second,
Palmer,
I
and
believe.
possibly Watkins.
Right. So it's oh no, he's not top three. I believe it is Haaland with 25, not Palmer, Isak, I think with 20 or 21, and then Watkins with 19, I believe.
I'll have to take a look at that. I didn't know Isak was in the running. I thought,
Yeah, it's actually Cole Palmer, second with 21, Isak
yeah,
with
that's what.
20. Isak with
Okay,
20, and then um
Watkins.
Watkins with 19 in fourth.
Right.
But
And then if you
Watkins is leading the assists with 12.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So when you look at the combined goal contribution, Watkins is the man. When you look at his performances in totality, he is the man. And for me, he gets my vote. But so pretty much then, Christoph, we have to keep a close eye on Chelsea. We don't know if it's just the Cole Palmer effect or it's a case where they're just going through a little purple patch at this point in time. But what of Manchester United, Christoph? Can Manchester United sink any lower?
Well, I don't know what to make of this game because it was somewhat of a makeshift side since United's injury list has grown massively in the weeks. We saw Casemiro playing centre back. Their inform player at the moment is Bruno Fernandes, who was also out injured. Highest paid player Rashford out injured. So, um, I don't know if this game was down to not having the preferred personnel or if this is just, what we can come to expect from United. But I'm
I mean,
expecting that,
United haven't been pulling up any trees all season, Christoph, and
yeah,
this
we know
is the
that.
EPL. I mean, regardless of who you put out there, then you would expect that these players would have been properly prepared by the coach and would give of themselves. I mean, at this point in time, Casemiro looked as if he's headed either to the MLS or the Desert League. I mean, Olise was made him to look like a shadow of his former self.
I mean, we can expect that Man United is likely to have a new manager next season.
Like, I'm not so sure. You talk to a number of Manchester United fans, they are still holding the faith with Ten Hag, which personally I would not mind. It would simply mean that don't expect Manchester United to win the EPL anytime soon once
I,
Ten Hag is there.
Personally, I agree. I would prefer if Ten Hag continued, but um, I don't know if the pressure will get to the board or the pressure will get to the manager. What will crack first? But I've also seen rumors where United is clearing out a large number of their squad. I've seen a lot of the players have been transfer listed. I don't know if this is factual or not.
Time is the master. Time will definitely tell, but this result really does not help the Ten Hag uh, storyline. However, bear in mind they are still in the finals of the FA Cup. So stranger things have still happened. You may
Well,
very well get a string of poor results in the
uh,
EPL,
the FA
and
Cup
then
is
Ten
only
Hag
going to
turns
have one
around and
result.
win the FA Cup, and then the narrative shifts. So
That is not happening.
time is the master.
That is not happening. We see where we saw in the United versus City game where there was a little glimmer of hope early on where we saw United scoring that early counter-attacking goal, brilliant. But then it was just they just capitulated for the remainder of the game, and I'm not expecting anything different from them in the FA Cup. I mean, Man City has two squads. You could probably
Right, and
name the
especially if
majority.
and then again, if Man City wins the EPL title, that will only give them confidence and a greater push towards doing the double. So I really still all to play for, for Man City in the league, and of course the FA Cup coming up later on down in the season. And Manchester United will have one eye on that. And I mean, in all honesty, players should be looking to push to get a start in that game if they indeed have any ambitions of winning that piece of silverware. But
United.
Christoph, yeah, I mean that should be the mentality of the players, I would
That that
think.
that should be the mentality of the players, but what are these players playing for? I don't see them playing for anything. The players have achieved their goals, which is a high contract. The players have achieved their goals.
So it's money driven then. Once
Uh,
you get that big bumper contract, that's it. You just go through the motions and see out your
but
contractual agreement
that
and
is how
continue to
football.
collect your weekly wages.
That is kind of how football was. Players would perform so that they could get that big contract, and they would continue performing to keep that contract. Though, players just get that big contract at the outset at signing, they get the big contract. They don't care they've reached. There's
Yeah,
nothing to prove
indeed.
for
I
them.
mean, going forward, possibly that's something that Manchester United management team should look at, inserting some add-ons or some incentives in these contracts so that performance-driven incentives. You score, let's say, 15 goals for the season, then you get a big bonus, so to speak, so as to keep players motivated. So that is something they can definitely look at if in fact these big contracts are resulting in players just going through the motions, as we've seen possibly with the likes of a Rashford getting that big contract, and
Rashford,
then all of a
Anthony,
sudden, so
Casemiro. I mean, Casemiro
the list
obviously
goes
has
on.
nothing to play for. Casemiro has won, four Champions League with Real Madrid. Uh, I think it's four La Liga as well. He's not playing for anything. Casemiro is playing for money at the moment. His last big
Mm.
paycheck, really. I mean, not that Casemiro is not, he was a quality world-class player,
But
but I
he's
don't
probably
know what.
past his prime at this
Yeah,
point in time.
definitely past his best. I know we've seen Manu over the years, sign a number of players who you would say were past their
Past
best.
their prime. That's right.
Zlatan,
Player
Cavani,
Schweinsteiger, I recall as well.
Schweinsteiger, and I mean, is it that they've just signed these players
Possibly.
for the
What about
name to,
Sanchez?
yeah, Alexis Sanchez?
Mm.
Well, I mean, Sanchez is a bit of a question mark. I did not expect Sanchez to do well at Man United, not because he was
Mm.
past his best, but because the Arsenal system made Sanchez look better than he was,
Got you. Got you. I'm more of a system baller, so to speak.
so to speak, because we haven't seen him bounce back after leaving
That
United. So
is right. That is true. That is true. But Christoph, down in the basement, we have big relegation fight on between three teams. Burnley, Luton, and Nottingham Forest. I think mathematically, I believe Brentford and Everton are now safe, but definitely a battle royale taking place there between those three teams as to which two will join Sheffield in the championship come next season. And of course, congratulations to Leicester City, Christoph, and Ipswich Town. These are the two new additions come next season to the EPL. So Leicester bouncing back one shot. And of course, Ipswich, a team which has been out of the EPL possibly for in excess of 20 years, is now back in business. And it will be interesting to see the third team in those playoffs that will join them in the EPL come next season. But Christoph, who is your pick to be relegated with Sheffield and who will survive?
honestly, I think Burnley will be relegated, and I think Nottingham Forest have enough about them to kind of climb out. So I think it's going to be Luton and Burnley at the
So pretty
moment.
much the three teams that got promoted will be the three teams returning.
I believe so, yes. Yeah,
This
I think
EPL is very competitive, and it seems like there's a big chasm, Christoph, between playing in the championship and playing in the EPL. There seems to be a big void that not many teams coming up can, in fact, survive and sustain themselves in the EPL.
what a number of these teams who come up probably should do is consider getting loanees from the top teams to bolster their squads. Players who have experience in not just bench warmers, but some players who get game time here and there. I think that's probably a good idea for these teams coming up to kind of bridge the gap. But also there probably needs to be some cap on spending and probably purchasing out players from these smaller teams. There needs to be a cap in order to give them some sort of fighting shots because obviously the
Well, I
top
mean,
teams.
for sure, there's an injection of cash. I believe there's an injection of possibly in excess of £100 million. Of course, teams coming up may have other expenses that they need to offset, such as possibly stadium improvements, as we saw with Luton. Their stadium wasn't really up to Premier League standard, and they had to shell out a few millions to really get their stadium up and running. So there are other expenses that these clubs coming up have to deal with outside of that cash injection which they are given. So the kitty may be small when compared to the bigger teams, and it's down to, as you say, intelligent recruiting is probably the best way to phrase it. Recruit intelligently. So pretty much you have one eye on how will we stay in the EPL. That's one way to look at it. And then the other way you also have to look at, if we go back down, can we then survive and bounce back right back up? So, it's a balancing act in all honesty. And, we see where Burnley is one of those teams which possibly struggling to find that balance.
um Definitely, but I mean, it could be just down to the quality of the players that they have. We saw where Vincent Company is. appears to be a very good manager when he was down in the championship. You know, he did very
Yeah,
well down there.
I must say Burnley results definitely shocks me. That is why I am alluding to the fact that Burnley totally dominated the championship and then come into the EPL and they're pretty much struggling to survive. You know, that's why I'm saying there's a huge gap, a huge chasm between the quality of play in the championship and then making that transition into the EPL. And possibly the FA may need to take a look at this and see how the quality in the championship can be improved, especially for teams coming up. Otherwise, it's going to be the standard where you come up and you go straight back down. As I said, you know, intelligent recruiting and shrewd management has to be the order of the day in order for you to really survive in the EPL. And I mean, even with the points deductions, Christoph, from Everton and Nottingham Forest, this still could not help the likes of a Burnley, a Luton, or a Sheffield. The gap is huge.
Where's the point reduction for Man City?
Christoph, well, that is a conversation for another time. But Christoph, quickly, we're running out of time. Any final thoughts on this weekend's football action and results?
Um, interesting bit weekend for a number of teams. United, Liverpool bouncing back, very good for them. Chelsea bouncing back. Um, we'll get to see if it's a one-man show or if it's Enzo being detrimental. Cole Palmer just being excellent. The battle at the top remains tight. 1 point separating them, but I mean, technically, you could probably call it that Man City is probably leading, has a 2 point lead, technically, because they have that game in hand. And I personally, I don't see them losing, and I don't see them dropping points. I do see them, going on to lift the title at the moment. It will take a massive slip for them. Even a draw would be enough because then we have level points going forward, but I don't see them losing. We do see where there's another top striker in the EPL, Alexander Isak, kind of just snuck up and is it now in third. I've seen rumors around that he might be going to Arsenal in the summer, but we'll have to see. But a very good weekend and very good for anybody who does not like United, I would say. But looking forward to this weekend's action and see where we end up. And I'm looking forward to that Man City Tottenham game. We'll see if Tottenham can do something.
Well, there you have it, viewers and subscribers. Thank you again for tuning in to us here on Beating the Press podcast. Thank you again, Christoph, for coming on board and really sharing your thoughts and your opinions. Now, viewers and subscribers, if you haven't subscribed as yet, hit that subscription bell and help us to grow by sharing the podcast. Share with your friends, share with your family, and help us to continue our growth. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.